today we're going to talk about multiplying fractions with visual models. All right, I have my paper ready. I'm going to start by writing down some fractions. Feel free to follow along with me at home. My first fraction is 1/4 times 2/3. So let's go ahead and think about what this means. We have our fraction 1/4. We know that that's less than 1 whole. There's 4 equal parts in the whole, that's our denominator, and our numerator is the number of those equal parts that we're talking about. So we have 1/4 times, I'll come back to that in a minute, 2/3. This is something that's divided into 3 equal parts, and we're talking about 2 of them. Now when we see the multiplication sign, that truly means of. This means of. And usually when we multiply, things get bigger and bigger and bigger. But we're going to see now when you multiply a fraction by a fraction, your product is going to be smaller than either of your 2 starting fractions or either of your 2 factors. So let me show you how we can look at this with a visual model. I'm going to start by drawing a rectangle. And I'm going to divide it into thirds because I have the thirds here in this denominator. And now I'm going to turn it into a grid. I'm going to also turn it into fourths going this way, going vertically, because I have a 4 in this denominator. So we can have a grid that has thirds and fourths represented. So now I can go in and I'm going to shade in 2 of my thirds. I like to have 2 different colors for this because I can easily tell where they overlap. So I can tell that this is a third and this is a third. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to neatly shade in 2 of my thirds. There we go. That right there in orange is this right here. I'll trace it so we can keep track. 2/3 orange. Now I'm going to make one of my fourths this blue color. This is going to be the one of the fourths. So now remember, my fourths, this item is divided into fourths vertically, and it's divided into thirds horizontally. So I'm going to need to pick one of the vertical columns for my 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and shade that in now. Now I can see where they overlap. What is 2/3 of 1/4? So let's go ahead and look. Where they overlap is part of our product. Right here, where the colors come together, is showing the multiplication product of these 2 fractions. Now we have to look at this board. We've divided it into more than fourths and more than thirds. Let's count the equal parts in our whole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 equal parts in our whole. So that is our denominator. Now, what's our numerator? Remember, the numerator is the number of parts that we're talking about. I have 1, 2 twelfths shaded in. So 2/3 of 1/4 is equal to 2/12. And we could see that that would be true if we applied our standard algorithm going straight across, because I know that 4 times 3 is 12, and 1 times 2 is 2. 2/3 is bigger than 2/12. 1/4 is bigger than 2/12, but this is the product of when you multiply something smaller than 1 whole by something else smaller than 1 whole. Now, we're not done yet. We need to think, can I reduce or simplify? And to do that, we find the GCF, the greatest common factor. I have to look at my fraction, and if I can find a common factor for these two parts, then I need to reduce and simplify. I'm going to start by making my factor chart for 2 and for 12. For 2, I have 1 times 2 equals 2, and then counting up, I'm already back to 2, so those are all the factors of 2. Let's look at 12. 1 times 12 is 12. 2 times 6 is 12. 3 times 4 is 12. 5 times something, no, that won't make 12, and then we're already back to 6. So these are all the factors of 12. Now I compare to find the greatest common factor. I've found 2 on both sides. So I'm going to go down here to keep my work neat and tidy. I'm going to rewrite my fraction, 2/12. Now remember, we're simplifying by dividing by the greatest common factor on both sides. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So once we simplify, our final product is 1/6. Great job!